My name is Aaron Oliver. I am the founder of Seasoned and Blessed. I am working with the partnership of Mariano's for our annual Black History Month virtual events. As you can see, we are still staying at home, staying safe, staying apart, but we're going to be together tonight doing working with Chef Lamar. And speaking of special people, I'm definitely excited to introduce him in a few minutes. A little bit about me. I met Amanda and Sarah, who will be our moderators tonight. Um, they've been helping me promote, help out my business. I work with diversifying Black businesses here in Chicago. Through my work, I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and it's definitely been a wonderful experience just to really work alongside Mariano's. And I do thank them definitely for the opportunity to host this event. It's like a first for me, so y'all bear with me, and it's going to be a great time. So going back tonight, we have Chef Lamar. He is our cooking star tonight. I have had the pleasure of working with him many occasions, so definitely happy to be back with him. Full circle moment to be exact, because we actually worked together on our first event when we were doing a crab boil at Mariano's in Bronzeville.
Yep.
That was our first event together. Definitely excited about that. And also tonight he will be cooking pan-seared pork chops with barbecue carrots. He's doing he has this molasses butter, honey yogurt sauce, and he's also doing a special meal. I'll tell you more about that later on with black eyed peas. So just get ready for that one. Real quick, just want to go over something before we get started. I'll turn over the mic to him. This is a safe space, no negativity allowed. There's a lot of us in here. If you have any questions, the chat is below at the bottom. Just feel free to put them in. Either I or Amanda, if you see them, we'll get the questions going and we'll ask them as he's talking through his recipes. And that's about it. So with that, I will turn it all over to Chef Lamar and we'll go from there. All right.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. First, I want to thank Mariano's, Aaron, Amanda. I'm excited to be kicking off our Black History Month for Mariano's. Just to talk and extend what Aaron talked about, I've been a tastemaker for Mariano's for over 7 years. I've developed a lot of recipes, as Aaron spoke about. You've seen me in the stores doing demos, online content, and since we've all been staying safe, we've done a lot of virtual events. So I'm excited to kick that off. So again, tonight, as you join me, I think a lot of you are cooking at home, so I'll take it slow and easy. As Aaron mentioned, I'm gonna do a bone-in pork chop with a little bit of molasses butter. There are some barbecue carrots, and talk about those carrots. For example, the barbecue spice that I'm using, I have it already in Mariano's Cookbook that you can purchase online or in stores. And it's one of my favorites and dear to my heart. And a little bit background about myself. Been in the industry for over 20 years. Most recently, I was on Food Network. Done Food Network 3 times. I was the winner of Food Network's Vegas Chef Prize Fight. If you haven't seen it, you can stream it. I was awarded the executive chef of a restaurant in Las Vegas called Bugsy & Myers. I've also been on Bravo, done some stuff there. Done a lot of collaborations, and I'm excited about this collaboration with Mariano's, and we're gonna get started cooking. And as Aaron said, if you guys have any questions as I'm cooking and going through the motion, don't hesitate to slow me down and ask a few questions, because I wanna make sure that you guys understand exactly what's going on. So cool, we're gonna get started. And the first thing we're gonna start with actually is the pork chop. So what we try to do is in the restaurant, same thing we do at home, is cooking the same way. Pork chops are gonna take a little bit longer to cook. So if you've noticed, I got some bone-in pork chops, and just so everyone knows, all this product is also, you can find in any Mariano store. So that's where all the product I have comes from. And so in the recipe, it has a little bit of sage. These are about 6-ounce bone-in pork chop. There's a little bit of bone at the top. The reason why I pick a bone, you ask, the heat extrudes to the bone and allows the flavor to penetrate in the pork chops and gives it a nice moist and tender juiciness of flavor. There are 6 cloves of garlic that I've nicely chopped, and I have some unsalted butter. So you guys can see here, I already have a pan. I have a nice flute pan, very hot. Most people ask, what style of pan can you use to sear? Just to show you real quick, it's a heavy duty pan. You can use heavy duty stainless steel, which I have here, or you can use a cast iron. I like them both. And what I'm gonna do here is season the pork chops, a little bit of kosher salt and black pepper on both sides.
Now, Chef, do you have a preference like bone in or boneless?
I prefer bone in. You know, bone in. Um, Honestly, I grew up with bone in. They were a little bit thinner, but I feel like if someone wants a pork chop, it's like the other version of having a steak without having beef. And so, you know, you maximize on flavor and tenderness. Another recommendation too, when I'm doing pork chops from time to time, I'll brine these. So brining meaning I add a little bit of acid, a little bit of sugar, some fresh herbs in there, and that'll help penetrate. Funny story, I worked in a stadium. I used to work for Chicago Bears, go Bears, a long time ago. And I had some cooks that played a trick on me. And I had some pork chops that I was going to brine, and I didn't. And I used to make sweet tea a lot for a lot of my team members. Long story short, they ended up putting a lot of salt in my sweet tea, and I didn't want to throw it away. Hence, that was one of my brines for pork chops, and it came out really, really well. So, it's a little fun fact. So, got a little salt and pepper on there, a little bit of oil. My little bit goes a long way. I'm gonna crank up the heat just a skosh. And you want the heat, you want medium to high heat. And the reason why, I want to get a good sear on the outside of the pork chop. And what that does, ensures flavor, give nice color. And I'm all about GBD, golden brown and delicious.
Yeah.
So I'll do a little tester to see if it's hot enough, which it is. And so the reason why I have butter, sage, and garlic, when I get ready to sear the pork chop on, when I get ready to flip the pork chop on the other side, I'm gonna add butter. Butter is better. Butter adds flavor, adds some moistness. And what we're gonna do is take a spoon and we're gonna baste the top of the pork chop. What that's gonna do is it's gonna, the sage is gonna flavor the butter and the garlic to give the pork chop a little bit more flavor. And also the sage marries well with the molasses butter. And when we get ready to plate it up, I'm gonna whip up the molasses butter and put it right on the top and give it a little bit more flavor.
All right, we have a few questions. I'm just looking at the chat.
Sure.
Rhonda only has a boneless pork chops, so she wants to know, does she need to cook it as long?
So great question. If you have boneless pork chops, you need to cook them. If they're the same size, they're roughly 5 to 6 ounces. You're gonna cook them about 5 to 10 minutes less. The reason why is because when it's a bone, the heat extracts to the bone. When you don't have a bone in there, it's just bare and it's gonna cook up really, really quickly.
Okay, and then you add salt when you seasoned, right? You did salt and pepper.
That's correct.
Okay.
I pre-season before I sear.
And Erica wants to know how much butter do we need in the pan?
So for these are two 6-ounce pork chops. This is about 4 ounces of butter. You don't need a lot, just enough to baste in the pan and give it some flavor.
Okay.
The other thing, when you mix butter with oil, the oil keeps the butter from burning also, and it adds more residual flavor.
Questions keep rolling in. Aaron, did you see all these?
Yeah, I see them. I just got one. David asked, I see you're cooking on electric. Do you have to accommodate the heat ring between electric and gas heat?
That is a very awesome, good question. Yes, you do. So I actually have, because of that, I have the heat on very high because this is electric. If I were doing this outside or on the grill, it would be a little bit more, it would be a little bit lower because of the gas and the flame. And you obviously don't want the flame to come up on the side as well.
Okay.
Great question. So that's been cooking for about 3 minutes. And the other thing I'm looking for, I'll show you here. I'm looking to see, you can start to see it's caramelized a little bit. So once I flip, it's gonna be a nice amber color, which is what I want. Now,
Dorothy asked, what's the name of the pan you're using? She knows it's stainless steel.
This pan is from a company called Mariano. Talk about collaborations. I've done some collaborations with them in testing this flute pan. It's one of their newer ones, so the handle is a little bit long, so I don't burn my hand on there as opposed to the flat straight one. They're available online also. So now that I have this pork chop flipped, I'm gonna go ahead and add garlic. I'm gonna add butter. And when I add the garlic and butter, that's when I turn it down a little bit. And then I'm gonna add the sage.
All right. Terry wanted to know, now when you start the pan, how long did it take you to preheat before you actually put the pork chops in?
So because I'm on an electric stove, it was 15 minutes because it's gonna take a while and it's a heavy duty pan. If you have a traditional gas stove, 7 minutes.
Okay.
So as you can probably see, there's a lot of butter in there, which I said about 4 ounces. So what I'm doing is taking a spoon here, I'm gonna slightly tilt it, and all I'm doing is basting that pork chop with all the delicious flavor. So all the garlic is seeping down in the butter, the sage, even with the sage on top, and all I'm doing is ejecting more flavor. I'm gonna cook these pork chops also to roughly medium well. And then we're gonna let them rest and then slice them and then put the molasses butter on top.
Okay. Ardith wanted us to know how much dry sage would you use?
For these 2 pork chops, that was 6 leaves, which is approximately like 1/4 ounce of sage in there. Just enough to give it a little bit of flavor.
Okay.
I don't want it sagey, but butter sagey.
Real quick, David asked, he said he wants to know he wanted to talk to us about the difference between pan searing with stainless steel and cast iron skillets, because he says he swears by the cast iron skillet.
Oh, tell them, you know what? And I swear by cast iron also. So with the cast iron, because it's consistently reseasoned and it's hard and rustic, you'll get more of a harder sear on there than you do stainless steel. With stainless steel, it just adds caramelization. So, I mean, as you can probably see here, if I were using a cast iron, it'll be a little bit more deep and richer in flavor and also color, and adds a lot more caramelization to it. Those are the variations.
Got you.
All right. So while those are cooking, I'm gonna put that on low. Next, we're gonna move over to our black-eyed peas. So there's a couple of variations I'll show you, and I'll show you what I have working. So I went to the store and I bought fresh black-eyed peas, as you can see. So you can soak these in the same day, a minimum 6 to 8 hours. Or what I did was I soaked them overnight and I rinsed them thoroughly. And as you can see, the colors kind of change on the black-eyed peas. You can also see some of the skin lifts up on the black-eyed peas, which is why you soak them. Plus, you want to get all of the dirt and other granules out of the black-eyed peas. And then I strain them and rinse them really, really well. If you're using frozen black-eyed peas, which could be possible, because obviously in the new year, especially we talk about Black history and African-American cultures, a lot of families went out on the first day shopping at Mariano's, buying up all the black-eyed peas. So very difficult to find in some aspects. So this is the fresher version. If you're using frozen, my recommendation when we talk about this recipe, and Aaron, I know we'll mention that, that'll be my secret recipe that we're going to post up on Mariano's website, where I'm going to add a black-eyed pea cassoulet, and I'll explain what that means as we go into that process. These here are canned black-eyed peas. As you can see, very, very darker in color. They have what I call like the salinity that comes from canned goods. So if I were to use this, I would rinse them really, really, really well to get rid of that syrup. And if you can tell, the color is very, very different also too from what they put in the can. And then I would cook these the same way. The black-eyed peas that I made, they have a lot of chicken stock in there. There's a little bit of bacon, mirepoix, which is celery, carrots, onions, a little bit of bay leaf. I reduce it by half for about an hour. It takes about an hour to cook. You let them sit, and I'm going to mount the heck out of it with a lot of butter. And that's going to be really, really rich cassoulet to go with our delicious pork chops.
All right.
And so as I'm saying that, I cooked in the presence of TV time. I've already made some black-eyed peas here. As you can see the difference in color. It's got a little bit of juice in there, so I'm gonna kick these up a little bit. Let that cook. And there's this technique called mountain butter. So when I add butter in there for richness, the butter is gonna be ice cold. When I add ice cold butter to a hot liquid, when it thickens, it's gonna give it a little bit more flavor, richness, and sheen. And the butter that I'm using is unsalted butter. One of my favorite butters to use in the store is pure Kerrygold. As you can see, the nice dark richness of color. And again, unsalted, because I like to salt my food. I don't like to pre-salt with butter. Any questions so far while I'm in there? We're gonna flip our pork chops one more time. Should be a nice color on there.
Yep, I got a few questions coming in. Let me go through and check them. Let's see. We have Oh, Dorothy asked me, where can I get this shirt, the hoodie? Oh yes, that's my this is my personal hoodie. You can see my logo. It is from seasonandbless.com. I'll link the website below in the chat to let you know. I just opened up a shop, so you can get my hoodie and t-shirt pretty soon. I'll link that in the chat a little later.
So those cooked about 10 minutes. Nice amber color. Those ready to go. I'm gonna put them on a cutting board here. I'm gonna let them rest. So the reason why I'm letting them rest, same thing if you're using beef or meat, you'll see here, you start to lose a lot of the juices. The juices will then fall, and then they'll go right back into the pork chop because we want to make sure that they're nice and moist and juicy.
Okay. Debbie asked, can you use this pork chop recipe with other meats like chicken?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This recipe is very versatile. I've been known as the meat guy, for lack of a better word. We talk about barbecue and steakhouses. You can use the same recipe for chicken. Works well with duck. Duck works well too with sage. And I believe last I looked at Mariano's, there's some frozen duck breasts. I believe Maple Leaf Farms that are really, really nice on there. I would probably back out on the butter a little bit because the duck breast tends to be a little bit fatty. But yes, absolutely. Very versatile recipe.
All right. Damon asked, do you use ham hocks to season your peas?
You know what? Ham hocks have been very, very hard to find. I actually I had a turkey hock. So I took I got some bone broth with a little bit of turkey hock, reduced it by half, and I'm trying to slim down. You know, I eat too much as a chef, so trying to stay away. I got pork chops, trying to stay away from having all the pork on pork. So I use a little bit of turkey stock in there too. And that works well for me. And actually, I said I'm gonna give this a little taste. So I got the heat up. And the other thing is when I add the butter, I got the heat up high too, and that's gonna help mount it together a little bit.
Okay.
And I can tell you that needs a lot of salt. So yeah, it was pretty bland. A little bit of salt. And we talk about pepper. So I don't know if you saw what I have here. Like I like, using whole peppercorns, especially if I'm using proteins a lot in my flavor profile. And I get the one sometime where in the top is interchangeable from either cracked to small to fine. I just think it just gives us a fresher product. It makes the product taste a lot better. Just my personal preference.
All right. I know I just saw a question that asked about the castellan recipe. You said you were going to post that on marianos.com after this.
Yes. I'll make sure. I'll make sure I send it to the correct people to get it where it needs to go. Aaron, that might be your job.
It might. You know what? Just send me the link. I got you.
All right. So I'm gonna get one more taste here. That's it. Oh, so talk about the black peas real quick too. You want to be careful not to overcook them. So what I'm looking for, it's almost like rice, for example. A lot of people, have challenges cooking rice. You should still be able to see some of the granules, and when it's done, when you can smash them just slightly. The other thing too with these black eyed peas, and I can send that recipe also. If you have black eyed peas left over, you're tired of them. One of my favorite recipes too is to make black eyed pea fritters. Love it. They're vegetarian if you choose to. If you don't want the stock in there, and it comes out really, really well also. So trust me, I'm not going to add this entire stick of butter. So I add a little bit at a time. I take it off the heat and I stir.
Now, speaking of butter, a question did just pop up. They asked, would salted butter make a difference? I'm not sure that means for the pork chops or in general for all the recipes, but that's a question I want to know. Would it be salted or unsalted butter make a difference in the recipes?
For me, salted butter makes a big difference because what I'm looking for, well, two things. If you're trying to definitely watch your salt intake, that's a big factor. I mean, in general, when you're using unsalted butter, you're allowing the flavors to permeate, which is what I did here. I allowed the stock, I allowed the hock to really add some flavor into, the dish that I make. And then I add the salt gradually. And as you add the salt and you're tasting, then it'll open up. So like now when I add the butter, if you can see now, it's nice and creamy, which is what I want. And oh my goodness, that is so good. One other factor, and again, we talk about cooking at home and virtual and having leftovers. Let's say, again, you don't want to make a fritter. It may take a long time. You put your black eyed peas in the cooler. So the next day, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with leftover black eyed peas. There's one recipe that I really enjoyed. And we talk about Black History Month. You can find our book online. It's called Edna Lewis, and she has a recipe called Hopping John. And Hopping John is a mixture of white rice that's been cooked in steam, mixed with black-eyed peas. Now, in the variation back at the time when she was making it, we grew up, eating a lot of pork and ham. You can do it with ham, or you can do it vegetarian style without it, or put chicken in there if you like. But you can just take this simple recipe of black-eyed peas, warm them up, make your rice, mix it together. And it is delicious and unctuous. One of my favorite things to eat also. Most likely I'll be eating that as a leftover too.
Damon asks, do you use water to cook your black-eyed peas or do you use chicken broth?
No, sir. I use bone broth. Bone broth has a lot more flavor, and I'll actually pour some so you can see the color on it. And my mom can contest to this because I got it a switch at home. Bone broth has a lot more flavor in there. And here we're talking about, our immune systems right now too. Obviously we make chicken stocks, it's extraction of flavor from the top. When you make a bone broth, when we do it in the kitchen, we take the bones, we roast them really nicely. It gets a really great fragrance and amber color. And as you can see, it's pretty dark and amber color in here. Sometimes in the morning, I'll just take it, warm it up, and I'll take a few shots of it because it's the release of the collagen of the bones and it's extraction of flavor and color. Okay. So no water for me.
All right.
Layers of flavor.
Eric asked, what was the name of that cookbook you just mentioned?
Well, it wasn't a cookbook, but the chef's name is Edna Lewis. You can go to Edna Lewis Foundation, which they also inspire and work with a lot of great chefs from the South. And also myself, I've done a few events with the foundation, and the books are available on the foundation. They're also available online. So it's a great time now to buy when we talk about really good cookbooks. Cool. Okay. All right. Next, we're going to talk about barbecue carrots. So you can use any nut you like. I personally like pecans, and pecans that are the nut of the South, the snack of the South. So I've got some pecans here that I've roughly chopped, and they've been lightly toasted. So when I toast them in the oven, just a sheet tray like I have here, 350, about 10-15 minutes, let them cool, and they get that nice amber color on the outside. Here, real quickly, yogurt. So I just have some unseasoned yogurt. There is a little bit of honey in there and a touch of vanilla, just a little bit. And it should be pliable and pourable. And I use Greek yogurt also to give it a little bit of tang.
All right, I was just about to ask, are you regular yogurt, Greek yogurt? I was like, which one was thick? So I assume it's Greek.
Yeah. So you can use any carrot that you like. Any carrot doesn't matter. I prefer the heirloom carrots. They're nice and colorful. The flavor doesn't matter in there. And I got the fresh ones with the stem on there. And again, some fresh mint and some fresh dill. What that does is, and also we talked about the barbecue spice. So I know Amanda would contest to my barbecue spice is one of my signature spices in there. It's a little sweet, it's a little spicy. I always put sugar in my spices. As you can see, it's kind of coated my finger. When you add sugar to it, it helps to coat on the outside of what you're cooking. So that's the reason why I add a little bit of sugar in there. And this is like my allspice in my house.
Great, Lamar, I was dying to show you this. I got this for Christmas. It's a spice shaker, and I put your spice in here, and we label it because it's like everyone's very specific. Like, we want shrimp with Lamar spice. We want this. Now it's like labeled and ready to go. You can thank my mom for this.
Nice. Thanks, Mom.
It is the best spice mix. You can put it on anything, which is why I love it. Veggies.
I love it.
Fish, chicken wings, anything like literally that you cook is better with that spice.
And to your point, Amanda, one of my other favorite things I like to do as a snack, and you can go, if you buy like the French fries, frozen fries, and everyone's being a little bit healthier. Like I have a little testy air fryer here in the corner. Throw some fries in there in your air fryer. When they come out, hit them with a little bit of barbecue spice. Now you got barbecue spice fries. So very, very versatile spice and seasoning. Anyway, that recipe's up there too, and there are other recipes in the book and online. Last but not least, we're going to fire up our carrots. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil. And one of the things I enjoy doing, I think I mentioned, I love cooking with oil and butter. When I cook with oil and butter at the same time, and that was vegetable oil, by the way, You can use canola oil or olive oil if you choose. I cook with oil and butter because I get the heat from the oil and I get the flavor of the butter and it keeps it from burning. So I'm gonna drop those in the pan first.
Now, do you have that on a high heat or a medium high? Or
This one's on medium high because I forgot to mention the other thing too with these carrots. These carrots were, because they're pretty big this time of year for whatever reason, these were connected together and I cut them in half so they cook a little bit faster. So I'm gonna toss those in the pan. And all we wanna do is soften the carrots a little bit. I still wanna have some give to it. And what I mean by give is being able to have a little bit of chew, where they have a little bite, but not cooking them where they start to fall apart. If you choose, you can pre-blanch them. If you're using, these are called heirloom carrots, meaning because they have different colors. Even if you were just using your traditional orange carrot, if you pre-blanch them, meaning you have salted water, soften them up, and then you get ready to cook them again, they won't get that char on the outside. And what I'm gonna do is slightly caramelize these, meaning that I'm gonna cook these up really nicely for a few minutes, and then I'll add the barbecue spice. And the reason why I don't wanna add the barbecue spice now is because I don't want them to burn. I just wanna be able to coat the outside of the carrots, to get the maximum amount of flavor. And as you can see, they're getting nicely coated in the butter too. So it's almost like having a little bit of barbecue butter.
hey, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all, nothing at all.
All right, let's see, any questions popping up? Any questions? No.
Really? No questions? I'm surprised.
Not yet. They're coming up.
No?
They were
All
popping earlier. So
You know what? There was a question earlier that someone private messaged me about salt. Like, what's the difference between sea salt and kosher salt? And then what do you prefer?
So I prefer sea salt. This one's a little bit fine. Kosher, very, very strong flavor, more robust. I use kosher salt mainly when I do seafood. Like if I'm doing salmon, they're a little bit more, especially the coarse kosher salt
say
has
that
more
4 times
flavor.
fast.
Right, coarse. I like to use that more with seafood. When I'm using sea salt to me is better on vegetables. The fineness of it. Morton is local to Chicago too, so I know that I'm getting the maximum amount of flavor in there too. One other salt I do not like using is iodized salt. I think that it's not good for our health. Two, the flavor profile on it leaves that metallic taste in your mouth. And like sea salt, you don't have that overbearingness of flavor. When it comes to kosher salt, the same thing.
Okay.
Hope that answers that question.
Yes. Lamar asked, what other vegetables did you add with the carrots, if you did it
You
at
said,
all?
wait, there was another Lamar?
Yes, Lamar Crawford. There's another one.
Wow. I thought you were being funny.
No.
So I figured someone would ask that question. This is what I call mirepoix. So this is basically diced celery, carrots, and onions. If you don't feel comfortable with your knife skills, you want to cut them, Mariano's has them already prepackaged in the box, or you can buy the matchsticks of carrots, celery, and then the diced onions, and then voila, you can mix them together. But of course, I didn't want to waste anything, so I took some of the heirloom carrots I had and some onions and celery and diced those bad boys myself, and I add a little bit of garlic.
Okay. Let me see. They have like 3 more questions just pop up. They're all mostly about salts. But the first one I saw was for the pork chops. Lindsay asked, did you let the pork chops rest for 10 to 15 minutes, or did you finish it off in the oven?
No, they're not finishing up. I actually have them right here on the board. They're still pretty warm and they're thick. If you look here, you can see all the natural juice on there. This is about 5 minutes. And the other thing you're looking for when I say that the juices come back to the top, if you look at that one right there, that's a beauty for me. You can see the natural juices rise to the top, which is what you want. Obviously, upon us doing a demo, I will be ready to cut that, which I am here, just as soon as these carrots get done. And you'll see it's gonna be nice and moist. And I'm gonna cut a few pieces and pull them apart and show you exactly what I'm looking for so you can see the give and tenderness we're looking for.
Okay.
So with the carrots, they're just about there. If you look here, when I say give, it's got a slight little limb on there. That's when I know the carrots are just about done. Obviously, it's nicely coated in the butter. So from there, I'll add a little bit of barbecue spice. Now, I'm going easy on the spice, just enough to give it some flavor, but remember, it's got a nice amount of salt in there. And then I'm gonna kick the heat up just a little bit to give just a slight level of caramelization on there.
All right. A question was asked, what about Himalayan salt? Would you say it's equal to sea salt, and do you cook with it?
Himalayan salt is nowhere near closest to equal. When I use Himalayan salt, I actually use it as an element to season steaks. Recently, when I was working with Bugsy Myers with Flamingo, we used to take a 20-ounce ribeye. We get the Himalayan salt in rocks, probably about that big, and get it super hot on the bottom of another cast iron pan. And what happens, we will hard sear the steak and then finish it on top of the Himalayan salt. And what that does is extracts a lot of flavor in there. Now, what you can do if you are, like my mom loves Himalayan salt, and so you can buy it in the store. They come in these little containers, and then you can put it on top of your meat. But Himalayan salt is very, very, very strong, so I would say use it sparingly.
Okay. I think another question that popped up earlier, I'm not sure. I think it was the same question about gray salt and black salt. Now, I've heard about black salt, but I'm like fairly new to understanding it. So you could elaborate more about that?
Gray salt and black salt should only be used for finishing. When I've used black salt, I may make a tuna tartare, and then I'll finish with a little black salt. It's super salty, super pungent. It's very oceany. The same thing with gray salt. I've only used that as a garnish and flavor right at the end, and it's mainly used in applications for like sushi, for sashimis or raw fish applications. You can do it on steak as well. And what happens, once you pull a steak off, you put a little bit on top, and it'll just melt right out of your hand.
Okay.
All right. One other quick one, as we're pretty much getting close to finishing up here. Molasses butter. I think everybody knows about molasses. This is my favorite one of choice. I put this on everything. I like to marinate with this too, thin it out. So I've allowed my same unsalted butter. This has been sitting for about 2 hours, so it's nice and soft. The molasses is in there. Again, if you notice, I did not heavily salt my pork chop, and here's why. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt in there. I have molasses, I have a whisk. Now, here's the other thing with this molasses butter. Let's say you have too much and you have this left over. You can roll this in the log with parchment paper and put it in the freezer, and then cut it out as you need in a restaurant. That's what we do. And what I mean by roll in the logs, you can take long sheets of parchment paper, take the spoon, dab it, roll them, and squeeze them. The other thing is that obviously this is good on the pork chop. This is really good on French toast. This is good on pancakes. This is good on my shoe. This is one of my favorite things to eat. I put it on corn. I don't care.
Damon asked, how much molasses did you use?
So that was 1 stick of butter and 3 tablespoons of molasses and about just a little pinch of the salt.
Okay. I think is it mild or full flavored or?
What's that?
The molasses. I think it was a question. Yes.
Oh, it's full flavored. It's heavy duty molasses. And here's the other thing. If you don't like the flavor of molasses, you can use maple syrup. You can use pure maple if you like. Maple and pork goes well together. You can use honey. Honey is another alternative. I love molasses, and the other thing is, I think we talk about a lot that I've done for Mariano's and demos. Everyone knows I'm the biscuit man. I love making biscuits, man. You can slap your biscuit in there and you'll be good too. So that's my personal
You're speaking my language as a bona fide Southerner from Chicago. You were speaking my language right now.
So I am slicing the pork chop right off the bone, and I'll show you exactly. So as you can see there, it's pretty juicy. It's got a nice little give in there, just a little bit. Got some flavor. You can definitely taste the sage in there. And again, the sage goes well with the molasses butter. And I'm slicing, you can slice how you want. I'm slicing about a 1/4 inch thick. These I brought up to about medium well. You can cook them well done too if you like. All right, so first, I'm going to plate up our pork chop since I have it cut. And what I like to do, so you see our black eyed peas is kind of set, so it's nice and thick. I'm gonna plate up our black eyed peas. Definitely gonna keep the bone with our pork chop.
Ardith asked, is there a technique to picking the pork chop, like to determine tenderness, or is there like a method you use to figure out which pork chop to use?
You know what? One of my favorite things about Mariano's, I'll tell you, that's a great question. If I'm looking for something particular, I go right to the butcher's. I go right to the butcher because they're standing right in front of you. They're educated. They're there for a reason. They can go and grab stuff out of the back. They can cut one fresh if you like. Personally, for me, I like a center cut. Same thing with my fish. The reason why is because I know it's thicker. The grade is a lot nicer. It's just like kind of like our bellies, you know. We don't like the bottom part, we don't like top, but right in the middle is like the best part of our stomachs. So that's kind of like my
good analogy.
I mean, it's the truth. You know, you kind of like that part. So
you're not. I don't object. It's the truth. I understand. I got one too. The south, north, and center. My center is missing a couple of abs at this point, but you know.
All right, so I'm gonna go right here. Do a little bit of dollop of our molasses butter, and that's my pork chop.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And next, we're gonna do our carrots, and trust me, I will be eating that. That's not gonna go to waste. So everyone, you can see here, right? So I'm gonna take our yogurt here. Don't worry, I'm being a little fancy here.
I can see that's that Vegas Chef Prize fight move right there. I see you. I see you. I see you.
And as you can see, like the carrots, they've got a nice little give to them too now,
right?
Because they've sat, which is what you want. You know, and I'm trying not to break them here. And this is a really nice side dish, or it can be an entree too. And my goal with this is a little bit sweet. It's a little spicy. It's a little creamy. It's a little nutty. So then from there, we got our nice toasted pecans. Now here you can use pecans, you can use candied peanuts, you can use walnuts, but I just got them just to have a little bit of crispness on here. And then with the herbs, it's just a little aromatics. So a little bit of mint.
Got you. A question just popped up while you were plating. What beverage would you suggest with this meal?
Oh my gosh. For me?
For you?
Bourbon cocktail.
Bourbon cocktail. Nice.
So bourbon cocktail works nice, but you know what? Honestly, I mean, this dinner is really nice too. A really nice Merlot will be good. And I'm actually glad that someone mentioned that. I just received some wine a few days ago from an actual Black winery, and as talking about history, they're one of the first Black wineries. And I'll pull out what I have. Where are you? I'll show you one that's really good. I just got this one. This is Chaos Theory. This is from Brown Estate Winery that is located in Napa, California, which would go very, very well with our dish. And as I say that, here is the finishing touches of our carrots. So again, that's the honey yogurt vanilla at the bottom. So heirloom carrots, some fresh mint and dill, a little bit of barbecue spice on there, and toasted pecan. So I'll go back with both the plates. I mean, this is kind of a dinner to die for. I think will be excellent and good. And this is my Southern twist on Black History Month, and kicking off with some of my favorite meals and foods. And I'm going to be eating and have a glass of wine here soon.
Awesome. It's wonderful. Now, what was the name of that wine again?
I have an emergency, I think. My beans, the black-eyed peas look nothing like yours at all. Like they're not even remotely. So I don't know what I did wrong.
Are they still hard?
They just don't look as creamy as yours did and like mixed up.
Okay, if there's a lot of stock in there, put it on low, reduce it by half, and then turn the heat off and let it sit for about 10 minutes. Then bring it back up to a Roman boil, pull it off, and then stir in cold butter, and it'll cream right up because black-eyed peas are heavy in starch.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna run through these questions and see what we got. Let's see. Bear with me. David said he would suggest for your meal, he would suggest a bourbon, a sage apricot Manhattan, or perhaps a Pinot Noir or an unoaked Chardonnay. What do you think?
We're talking bourbon? Hey, I got a whole bar here. I'm with that. A little bit of Whistle Pig, some Simply lemonade in there, and a little bit of spiced honey. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And what was that name of wine you just put out earlier? The one on the counter?
Oh, so I have 3 of them. I'll grab the other ones. These are all from Brown Estate. So this is their 2019 Chardonnay. This would be great with that too, especially with the pork chop. This one is Chaos Theory. Really, really good with steaks, the vegetables. Complements the barbecue spice, so it's not too harsh. And there's one more. This one's my favorite. Whew. This one there. That one. Yes, sir. That one's with that pork chop and definitely some dessert when you're done too, because it's a good one.
Awesome. That is what's up. So, real quick, I do want to ask you, like I said, we're still staying at home, still, pivoting to prosper, as I like to call it. What are you doing? Like, what things are you doing right now to get through this time, and like any events or any organizations you want to plug that we should be on the lookout for in the coming months?
Let's see what I've been doing. I'm sitting at home cooking quite a bit, doing things like this. I think I have watched every Netflix, every Food Network show, every Bravo show that known to man. Definitely sports since that's active. I've been trying to stay a little bit more active too. It's been difficult, obviously a challenge without going to the gym. So I find myself taking longer walks. I'm on the internet quite a bit lately, especially, because of the pivoting, doing a lot of social media. I've done a little bit of mentorship. It's been a little bit challenging because of the schools being out. I think when we talk organizations, I was on a Zoom call earlier and, we're asking, what can we do to, help and assist, Black businesses and restaurants. And my advice is, one, try to visit if you can. I think, merchandise purchases are really, really great because it helps the community, helps the restaurants. I encourage you to go to like yourself, Aaron. I think that you've done a great job in, channeling, restaurants and chefs. Black People Eats is another one. BlackPeopleEats.com where you can look and donate. James Beard Foundation has found its way to do the same thing. Mariano's as well. And talking about that, as excited as I am to kick off the list, I am the first of many chefs that are on the list to participate in this awesome opportunity. And although I'm not in a restaurant right now, the support, for me is very granular and I appreciate it. And there are other chefs, behind me. I think Brian Jupiter is one of them, who's a good friend of mine, definitely supporting him in his restaurants. I mentioned Lexington Betty. I haven't visited the restaurant yet, but, I know Dominique and the work that she put in, not only just in one space, her opening on the south side of Chicago and, 111 Food Hall.
Yes.
Eric Williams, I know you talked about Virtue. Eric's a good buddy of mine. Don't be surprised. You'll see me posted up at his restaurant. We've had to pivot very differently in supporting restaurants where we can't visit. If you're traveling or have friends, in different areas. Eduardo Jordan out of Seattle, he owns June Baby and Solar. He's got a couple of James Beard Awards. Masala, she just released a book at the Gray in Savannah, and she's opening a new concept in Austin, Texas. Again, I can go on and on with the list, and I think the other big piece is outside of just assisting, the restaurants, it's really, really assisting our communities. And I want to, as I say that, I want to commend, Mariano's and yourself, Aaron, and Amanda and Sarah. I've taken this journey. A lot of people ask, all the time about, why do I choose organizations and collaborations? And I consistently choose Mariano's because, they invest in time and people like myself. I remember, my first time, I posted this on Instagram a few days ago. It was my first photo shoot with Mariano's. And I was a young culinary chef. I quit a job, a corporate job, to then try to find my own way. And Mariano's was one of the first people with Amanda Puck and her team to really offer me some assistance to be able to continuously prevail as a chef. And, here I am almost 8-9 years later and still being able to do the same thing. So, not to get long-winded, but those are some of my tidbits, because there's so many restaurants and operators, even coming out of whatever, this pandemic is going to be. It's going to change a lot for what we do and what we don't do. And it's just continuously doing things like this to help each other and collaborate as much as we can.
Absolutely. You're
Sorry,
absolutely right on that. Oh no, that's perfectly fine. And like you said, I definitely touch and agree with that same sentiment. And I try to explain to people that's my mission of Seasoned and Blessed, what I do. And I've been doing like that for the past 5 years. And Chicago is my adopted city. I'm from Atlanta originally. And I try to explain to people that what I do and how I support, it's with intention. You lead with intention, you lead with understanding that like this isn't just something that you do 28 days out of the year that's designated by the federal government or whatever you want to call it. It's a lifetime commitment. It's a 365-day thing. This isn't just going to, our support for Black-owned businesses, Black-owned creatives, you, me, everyone, that doesn't just end after February 28th. It is a lifelong commitment, and that's why I appreciate, not to get all emotional here, but that's why I appreciate Mariano's and the work that they do, because they're consistently looking out for the local businesses, for Black-owned businesses, anyone in the minority. This is what they do. This is who they are. This is what their mission, their principle stands for, and that aligns with what I do as a business owner myself. So I definitely appreciate them giving me this platform to expand my knowledge, share people I have worked with before, and in the future, going forward, I definitely look forward to this continue to spread the message of supporting Black businesses and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We had any other questions popping up before I call it a day? Let's see.
Sure.
Their location for Seasoned and Blessed. Yes, there is. It is, my website is seasonedandblessed.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Seasoned and Blessed. I have the hoodies there, as you can see, my Seasoned and Blessed logo, seasonedandblessed.com/shop. You can look it up there and just explore and see what I do best in Chicago.
And I'll also close that out too. Again, I definitely appreciate all of you for taking our time and joining us and cooking with us and, sipping wine, or if you're at work and being able to tune into what we do, collaboratively. With myself, you can find me on Instagram at chef_LJM. I'm very close to launching a website with some other great opportunities for events. I'm always all over Facebook. Again, I'm also a tastemaker for Mariano. So any of these recipes that you've seen, any other recipes that you're looking for, you definitely can find it at marianos.com. And all those, everything I've cooked here is available in a grocery store. And Godspeed, and everyone be safe out there.
All right. Thank you. And Amanda, if you have anything else, she's over there with the black eyed peas. I know she was there earlier.
My I will post a photo. And someone made a comment that whatever they cook looks different than what Lamar made. And yeah, me too. And I think you want to spotlight Mackenzie, Sarah, because I think the dish looked incredible. Mackenzie, how are you?
Unfortunately, they've already been eating the food.
Oh no! Oh, Mackenzie, I'm so happy to see you tonight. You've been like our most regular Zoom family, so hopefully you'll come back. Hi. All right. Oh my gosh, it looks.
Oh wow!
Post it and tag us if your parents say.
Yeah.
We'll repost
Please
it.
do.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it, guys. It was a great meal. Loved watching you guys and learning from you. It's excellent.
Thank you. And as I said too, obviously, as you guys gather social media, you guys have any questions, comments, or if you walk through the recipes and don't understand it, I respond pretty frequently. So don't hesitate to reach out. I enjoy doing that.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lamar and Aaron from Sarah, I don't want to speak on her behalf, but thank you so much. You know how much we appreciate you and really, appreciate your time tonight and everything you do for us. So thank you. Make sure you support these guys. Sarah and I are going to get some Season and Blast merch. We're very excited. Next week is the next one, I think, right, Sarah? Yep, February 9th. I love Sarah's on mute. I'm talking to her. Yeah. Next week, we're Brian Jupiter on the 9th. Aaron will be here too. And we have a great lineup. So it's all on our Eventbrite page. And thank you, Chef Lamar and Aaron. Yay!
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Everyone, thank you. Have a good one.
Everybody have a good night.